Q. On the possibility of murder in the Chamber of Secrets. Detective Ke Xue. 1. Use fishing lines, tape, videotapes, etc. to arrange a secret room. 2. Use mechanisms, poison, poisonous insects, etc. to complete murder in a secret room. 3. After killing someone, hide in a secret room. Ke Xue Investigator. 1. Use mythological creatures to kill. 2. Use voodoo spells to complete murder. This book is also known as A Certain Investigator Without Science, about becoming a legendary investigator in the science world. As a Hawaiian, I have mastered billions of skills, which is reasonable, and, at the same time, as a confidential adult, I understand some mysteries, which is also normal. P.S. Is the subject still a Conan fan? Keywords of the novel. Conan's Crooker Investigator. No pop-ups. Conan's Crooker Investigator TXT Complete Collection Download. Conan's Crooker Investigator Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Detectives and Investigators. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Detectives and Investigators. 6:21 p.m. Tokyo Metropolis, Mihua Town, Xue Mansion. In the banquet hall, guests dressed in very appropriate attire hold wine glasses, and the interplay of toasts makes people unable to help but feel that this is the upper-class society. And on the sofa that was temporarily moved to the corner of the wall for the banquet, a person wearing a light brown coat was sitting on it, tightly holding the driver's license taken out of his wallet. Family name. Qin Jibwa, born on June 24, 34th year of Showa. Indeed, it has traveled through time, and it's also a country where you live a good life. However, this one was born in the 34th year of the Showa era, and when converted to AD, it seems to be 1959. From the 80s to the 50s, sometimes all you need to do is close your eyes. Fortunately, the name did not change after the journey, and the sense of disconnection was not too strong. Just as Qin Jibwa was about to continue searching for something else in this heavy wallet, a small area in the lower left corner of his field of vision suddenly lit up with a white, semi-transparent, ancient font. Name. Qin Jibwa. Gender. Male. Age. 37, 1-year-old. Occupation. Investigator. Social credit. 1200, appearance, occupation, interpersonal relationships, personal assets, etc. all have an impact, with a standard value of 1000, attribute, non-fixed value, varies with current physical condition, strength. 60, standard value for adult males is 50, standard value for adult females is 45, agility. 60, adult standard value of 50, physical fitness. 60, adult standard value 50, body type. 70, refer to the body type and height comparison table in the 7th edition of the COC Rules Book, Appearance. 60, standard value for adult males is 50, standard value for adult females is 55, intelligence. 65, adult standard value 50, will. 90, adult standard value 50, lucky. 35, adult standard value 50, comment. You have a steel-like will, and Mount Taishan will remain unchanged. This is the basis for becoming an excellent investigator. Vocational skills. Investigation. Investigation refers to your investigative talent. Improving this skill will enable you to analyze a person's basic information attributes, or understand past events through analyzing crime scenes or objects, and improve your proficiency in other skills. Level 1. Proficiency. 800/1000, the core skill of an investigator, if not able to investigate, is no different from those detectives who simply show off their intelligence. Investigation level +1 will result in an increase of attribute intelligence +5. Medical. Medical care refers to your medical knowledge, and improving this skill makes you more likely to successfully identify drug ingredients, make reasonable medical-related diagnoses, and adopt correct medical emergency measures. Level 1. Proficiency. 500 out of 1000, applied medical books related to investigating crime scenes may significantly enhance proficiency in this skill. Car driving. Car driving refers to your driving skills. Improving this skill will give you stronger road control and car handling abilities. Level 2 Proficiency 200/1000, Autumn famous mountain chariot god, born from this. Language. Language refers to your language ability, and improving this skill will give you a stronger talent for language learning and a richer reserve of language knowledge. Level 3 Proficiency 800/2000, current language proficiency. English, Japanese, Chinese. Fighting technique, Gamma art. Fighting technique, Gamma art, refers to your ability to use Gamma art. Improving this skill will enhance your melee fighting ability, or your defense ability when facing infringement from others. Level 2 Proficiency 1400/2000, if the level of a single combat skill is +1, you will receive an increase of attribute strength +5, firearms. Firearms refer to your ability to use firearms, and improving this skill will improve your firearms shooting accuracy and increase shooting distance. Level 3 Proficiency 1100/4000, currently proficient in firearms. Pistols, submachine guns, rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles. The maximum precision range of a sniper rifle is 550 yards. After browsing these contents, Qin Jibwa has gained a new understanding of himself. I was born in Showa 34 and my age is 37 years old, so the current time is 1996. Japan in 1996. In addition, Qin Jibwa also noticed that his profession is an investigator. What is the profession of an investigator? Are you an FBI investigator? Hello, this is Japan. How could there be an American institution? How about shooting big films here? At the moment, Qin Jibwa couldn't understand his profession, so he could only look down at his attributes. According to the adult standard values marked above, besides being lucky, I am higher than the average adult, but I am not very strong in some attributes that can intuitively reflect strength, such as strength and intelligence. Iron. Well, what's the use of this? Looking at vocational skills again, it can be summarized as 6 skills. Investigation, medical treatment, car driving, language, fighting skills, gamma, firearms. Leaving aside the first few, what exactly is the situation with this last one? The original owner of this body surprisingly mastered the usage of pistols, submachine guns, rifles, shotguns, and sniper rifles simultaneously. Who am I? Just as Qin Jibwa was pondering, a young man in a dark blue suit walked towards him. The young man held a glass filled with carbonated soda in his right hand, which also exuded a gentlemanly demeanor, indicating that he often frequented such occasions. Sir, may I ask if your profession is a self-defense officer? The expression on Qin Jibwa's face was of course bewildered, which made the confident young man's expression slightly unpleasant. Then he quickly said, "That's the police." Speaking of which, self-defense officers are likely to wear professional attire in such formal occasions. The hem of the dark blue suit shook twice with the young man's awkward smile, but Qin Jibwa still had an expression of confusion on his face. What? It's not a police officer either. The young man was a bit flustered now, holding his chin in one hand as he pondered. But Qin Jibwa looked at the man in front of him, completely unaware of what he was saying. Why did this person suddenly come over to chat and speculate about my profession? At a moment when the scene was somewhat awkward, a young girl walked over from behind the young man. Cinny sometimes guesses others' professions wrong. Qin Jibwa turned his gaze to the young girl, who was wearing a light yellow long dress. Although it was not a luxurious dress, it looked very fresh on the girl's body. The temperament of the neighboring girl, who was like a small family jade, was highlighted vividly. Apart from the cute face that even compared to popular female celebrities, the biggest feature is the hairstyle on the girl's head, which looks a bit like horns in the distance due to its fluffy hairstyle. This was just an accident, and I'm not guessing, I'm reasoning. This gentleman has calluses on his right tiger's mouth and the second joint of his index finger. Only those who have been in contact with firearms for a long time will have such calluses. What only confuses me a bit is that since this gentleman is neither a self-defense officer nor a police officer, in Japan, apart from the fact that shotguns are allowed for sports and hunting purposes after registration, I can't think of any other profession that can legally access firearms for a long time. At this moment, the expression on the young man's face suddenly changed from confident to scrutinizing, and the person scrutinizing it was naturally Qin Jibwa. The atmosphere at the scene remained silent for 2 seconds like solidification. After 2 seconds, Qin Jibwa said with a somewhat dull expression, "Kudo Shinichi." The name blurted out made the young man across from him somewhat puzzled, while the girl directly said, "Sinny, this gentleman knows your name. Maybe I saw my name and photo in a news report about a certain case, and now I recognize it, right?" Of course, Qin Jibwa, who has just traveled here, cannot have seen news reports about this world. At this moment, in Qin Jibwa's field of vision, there were several lines of white semi-transparent font next to the head of the young man in front of him, just like before. Name: Shinichi Kudo. Gender: male. Age: 17 years old. Main profession: detective associate. Occupation: high school student. Social credit: 8400. Do you want to continue the investigation? Yes. Square root, no X, next to the horns of the horned girl, behind Kudo Shinichi. Qin Jibwa also saw the same font. Name: Mayalalin. Gender: female. Age: 16 years old. Occupation: high school student. Social credit: 2000. Do you want to continue the investigation? Yes. Square root, no X, not only the two people in front of them, but also the same information next to the heads of others. Shuyu Zunda, president of investment company, social credit 5900. Taro Iwata, president of a financial company, social credit 5200. Kubo E, professional baseball agent, social credit 4800. Matsumoto Ryohira, butler, social credit 1700. Qin Jibwa couldn't finish reading all of these things. Looking back at Kudo Shinichi, who was both a detective and a high school student, Qin Jibwa's mind was filled with new doubts. Is the high school student in front of me really a detective? Detective is a profession that infringes on people's privacy rights to obtain intelligence and repeatedly jumps on the edge of the law. How can someone start working in this obviously not very glamorous and respectable job from high school? Study hard. Isn't it good to get into a good university? I heard that doctors, teachers, and lawyers are widely recognized as popular professions in Japan. With the idea of continuing to understand the world in his own golden finger, Qin Jibwa clicked on the option to confirm further investigation in his heart. Yes. Square root. At the moment of confirming the options, Qin Jibwa suddenly extended his right hand out of his control. And when Kudo Shinichi saw the man in front of him suddenly extend his hand, although it was a bit abrupt, out of politeness, he still welcomed his hand and gave Qin Jibwa a standard handshake. As the two palms touched, new information appeared beneath the basic information of Kudo Shinichi. Name: Shinichi Kudo. Power: 50 agility, 70 physical fitness, 60 body type, 60 appearance, 80 intelligence, 80 will, 65 lucky, 55 evaluation. High-quality human males who inherit high-quality genetic genes from their parents. Skills: natural history, language, medicine, fighting skills, football, sports, skateboarding, skiing, social skills, speaking, charm, driving a car, driving a fast boat, driving a small aircraft, firearms. These pieces of information do not appear together, but rather as the two shake hands, each piece of data becomes apparent one by one. When all the data was displayed, both of them shook their hands for a full 10 seconds. Kudo Shinichi was impatient and wanted to pull out his hand, but his strength was not as strong as the man in front of him. Seeing the data of this young man named Kudo Shinichi, Chinjibwa couldn't calm down in an instant. My goodness! What kind of immortal data is this? As the owner of the golden finger, apart from willpower, most of the data starts with 6. And the young man in front of me, whom I casually met, was actually taller than me, except for his strength and willpower, as well as his unique body shape and physique that were on par with himself. There are also many exaggerated skills, as well as unknown combat skills. Football, isn't this the legendary protagonist data panel? Just as Chinjibwa was surprised by the extraordinary performance of the young man in front of him, he suddenly pushed open the door from the entrance of the banquet hall and burst into a lost maid. Yes, there are people. Someone's dead upstairs. At the same time, a new text appeared in the left center of Chinjibwa's field of vision. Side task. Identify the culprit of this case. Task requirement. Time limit of 1 hour. Assisting others in solving cases is also considered as completing the task. Task reward. 200 proficiency in general skills, 100 social credit. Main task. Discover and investigate 2 members of the corpse cult. Task requirement. Tokyo metropolitan area, no time limit required. Task rewards. 1000 general skill proficiency, skill training acceleration card, 3 days, lottery times +1, mall permission. Enable. The protagonist has not seen Conan, but with enough golden fingers, there won't be too much information difference. It is precisely because the protagonist does not understand science and has no inherent impression of the world of science that they can better understand the content behind the event. This book is a modified worldview that combines science, with a focus on reality. The Legend of Mermaids, Foggy Dogs, and Snow Maidens Witch, Black Organization, APTX.4869, software capable of subverting all humanity. There may be some scientific explanations behind it. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Esoteric Canon in the Murder Scene. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. Shinichi Kudo. Has he already discovered the truth before me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Shinichi Kudo. Has he already discovered the truth before me? Mysterious mythological knowledge. There is no relevant content in Chinjibwa's understanding, so he can only turn his attention back to the book at hand. But before he could open the book with both hands, the relevant information about the book had already appeared in his mind. The Corpse-Eating Canon. Written by the 16th-century French nobleman, Count Francois Wunderbalfer. The book lists the cults in France that were addicted to decapitation, cannibalism, and necrophilia at that time, and provides a detailed account of the behavior and teachings of these cults. This book is an abridged French version with a focus on normalization of content. Reading this book will result in a loss of 2.8 willpower points, proficiency in mysterious mythological knowledge and skills plus reading loss of willpower points multiplied by 100, language barrier, unable to read. Chinjibwa, who didn't know French, could only put the book back on the bookshelf and walk towards the next searchable spot in his field of vision. On the side of Shinichi Kudo, the wise little eyes watched with great interest as Xue Zunda performed on the wheelchair. Among all the cases resolved by Shinichi Kudo, he had to admit that his acting skills were the most mature. Many murderers not only do not flee the scene after committing a crime, but also boldly stay near the scene, waiting for the police to come and interrogate themselves. Once the confession of these murderers is accepted by the police, the expression management on their faces will unconsciously lose control. Kudo Shinichi used the poor facial expression management of these murderers several times as a basis to identify them in advance and then conduct retrospective reasoning. But just now, Xue Zunda's acting skills were quite realistic, and the shocked expression upon seeing the body even made international movie stars bow down. If it weren't for realizing that Xue Zunda had already recovered from his leg disease, it wouldn't have been easy to find this old fox this time. Kudo Shinichi secretly identified the murderer in his heart, and the next step is to find out the method of murder, the motive for the murder, and the most important evidence. The first is the method of killing. This reception room should be the first scene, and the room key is on the deceased Tetsuya Yamazaki. That is to say, at that time, the room door was locked from the inside by the deceased, with the aim of having a secret meeting with the murderer who invited him to avoid being bumped into by others. Chamber of Secrets murder. It's a bit tricky, but Shinichi has already asked the police under Mumu to come downstairs and inquire. I believe we will get the result soon. Next is the motive for murder. One is the president of an investment company under Suzuki Corporation, and the other is the general manager of Hatchling Bank. From a professional perspective, it is highly likely that there will be financial exchanges between the two, leading to disputes. What makes Kudo Shinichi somewhat puzzled is how much resentment the two of them have, in order for Xue Zunda to commit murder and even cut off the cheek flesh on Yamazaki's face. Finally, there is evidence, and there are three pieces of evidence that can be relied on. The first one is to inquire with the attending physician of Xue Zunda whether he is concealing the fact that his leg disease has healed. If the attending physician admits, then as long as Xue Zunda's psychological defense line is not strong, it is very likely to directly reveal a loophole and then plead guilty. Of course, this evidence is only based on the weak psychological defense line of Xue Zunda. At this level of evidence, as long as Xue Zunda bites to death someone who was not killed by himself, and hires a shrewd and capable lawyer, he can get away with the crime. And just now, Shinichi Kudo had already witnessed Xue Zunda's down-to-earth acting skills with his own eyes, so I believe this old fox's psychological defense line will not be too easy to break through. So this piece of evidence, Shinichi Kudo, is not intended as evidence for the final conviction. The real ironclad evidence is the other two. Although the knife, which was used as the murder weapon, was left at the scene, when committing the crime, in order to prevent blood from splashing onto her body, Xue Zunda should also have a blood jacket worn during the crime. In addition, the cheek flesh that was cut off from the deceased's face must have been taken away and hidden by Xue Zunda since it was not present at the scene. This is also the most puzzling thing for Shinichi Kudo. Why did Xue Zunda insist on cutting off the cheek flesh of the deceased? Does this behavior have any special meaning? Just as Kudo Shinichi was thinking to himself, Chinjibwa passed by beside him. This made Kudo Shinichi, who was in a state of contemplation, lift his head and look in the direction that Chinjibwa was about to go. What is this person doing on the balcony? Kudo Shinichi turned his head again to look in the direction of Chinjibwa's arrival, remembering that he had just caught a glimpse of Chinjibwa standing in front of the bookshelf, holding a book in his hand. Did he find anything? Driven by curiosity, Shinichi Kudo walked up to the bookshelf where Chinjibwa had just stood, his eyes scanning the books on the shelf. On the bookshelf, a slightly protruding book caught the attention of Shinichi Kudo. Kudo Shinichi reached out and pulled out the book, which had a dark red cover and was written in French in gilded font. Cults des Gauls cults, pagan. Des sum. What does Gauls mean? Although Shinichi Kudo has some understanding of all international languages and English has reached a level where he can communicate fluently with international friends, French is just average and can only understand some basic vocabulary. So, Shinichi Kudo opened the book again and flipped through the opening few paragraphs. It seems like a book about the history of 16th century France. The taste of Xue Zunda is really unique. However, this book should have nothing to do with the case, and that person probably picked it up and took a glance out of curiosity about the title. Thinking so, Shinichi Kudo put the books back on the bookshelf. Chinjibwa followed the spot of light in his field of vision and arrived at the balcony. There are 3 visible spots on the balcony, but these 3 spots are not all on the balcony, but start from the balcony and extend along the protruding eaves towards the small house on the side of the living room. Chinjibwa started his investigation from the balcony where he was located. Investigation square root, there are stains on the balcony fence. Someone has recently stepped on it and left traces of fixed ropes. The spot of light was located on the fence pole of the balcony leaning towards the neighboring cabin. Qin Jibwa leaned closer and carefully examined it, and there was indeed an inconspicuous gray stain and long friction marks on it. And the second spot of light is located on the edge of the protruding eaves outside the window of the neighboring cabin. It is difficult to jump directly from the balcony, and Qin Jibwa can only run out of the room and investigate the other two spots in the neighboring cabin. And as Qin Jibwa ran out of the room, he passed by Kudo Shinichi again. At this time, Shinichi Kudo had just received news from the police and was rethinking the issue of tactics. Although this case may seem like a secret room murder at first glance, when he first entered the scene, Shinichi Kudo carefully studied the door lock and found that the door lock in this room can be locked from the outside as long as there is a key. That is to say, as long as Shuyu Zunda has the room key, he can come and go freely in the room. After killing someone, lock the door directly, and with numerous guests as cover, the police will never suspect that a person in a wheelchair is the murderer. So Kudo Shinichi just sent a police officer to inquire about the room key. But the answer he received made Shinichi Kudo somewhat regretful. There are indeed two keys to this room, but both keys are kept by the butler. Except for the key to the master bedroom of the mansion, which is kept by Mrs. Shuyu, other infrequently used rooms are usually locked, and the key is personally kept by the butler, Ryohira Matsumoto. Before the incident, the butler said that Tetsuya Yamazaki had asked for the key to this meeting room from him, citing his drunkenness and desire to find a quiet place to rest. Half an hour later, the butler handed over another spare key to the maid and asked her to clean the room. The maid who went to clean the room opened the door and found the body of Tetsuya Yamazaki. Throughout the process, Shuyu Zunda did not have the opportunity to access either of the two keys. So if it weren't for Shuyu Zunda stealing a key, it would have been using other methods of committing the crime. At this moment, Kudo Shinichi happened to see Qin Jibwa coming out of the balcony and hurriedly running out of the door, as if there was something urgent. That kind of gaze doesn't seem to be the kind of urgency that people have. Did he already discover the truth before me? Collect and ask for tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Little Black Recreation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Little Black Recreation arrived at the small house next to the crime scene, which was not clearly related to the case and was not guarded by the police. Qin Jibwa wanted to turn on the lights, but in order to avoid alerting the police at the crime scene next door and causing unnecessary trouble, Qin Jibwa decided not to turn on the lights in the room for now. Qin Jibwa took out his phone from his pocket, intending to use its bright light to illuminate it, but as soon as he took out his phone, he was dumbfounded. Mobile phones from 1996, not to mention flashlight function, even the screen is black. There's no way, Qin Jibwa can only enter the room in the dark. As his eyes adapted to the dark environment, coupled with the faint light coming in from the neighboring crime scene, Qin Jibwa could see the layout of the interior of the room clearly. This is an extremely rudimentary room with minimal furniture, only a bed on the right side of the window and a matching bedside table. In this room, Qin Jibwa was pleasantly surprised to discover a new spot of light. The position of the new light spot is on the edge of the bed facing the window. However, Qin Jibwa did not immediately investigate this new light spot, but started investigating along the light spot he just discovered. Extending his head out of the window, Qin Jibwa was less than 2 meters away from the light spot on the edge of the protruding eaves below the window. As long as the straight line distance is less than 2 meters, even if Qin Jibwa cannot reach that position, he can still investigate. Investigation square root. There are complex and dense footprints on the edge of the window, which some people have tried to walk on multiple times. Like the previous investigation, Qin Jibwa received another evaluation from the investigation. However, Qin Jibwa was unable to confirm the authenticity of this evaluation this time because the light on the edge of the eaves was too dim to see if there were really footprints on it. At this point, having a lighter is also excellent. Qin Jibwa investigated the light spots on the window frame of the cabin again. Investigation square root. There is a slight stain on the edge of the window frame. If it weren't for the carelessness of the servants cleaning, or someone recently tried to pass through here, the light here is still decent. Qin Jibua looked down at the window frame and indeed saw a small black scratch stain. The last spot of light is also a newly discovered spot in this small house. Investigation square root. There are slight indentations on the edge of the bed sheet, as if someone had supported the edge of the bed with one hand and hidden something under the bed at the same time. New clues appeared in Qin Jibua's vision. The investigation of all investigation points at the crime scene has been completed. Will the scene be reproduced? In this prompt, Qin Jibua learned that the luminescent spot he saw at the crime scene was called an investigation point. As long as all survey points are investigated, the scenario can begin to reappear. Scene reproduction is it to see the crime scene again at that time. Seeing is better than hearing, and Qin Jibua directly confirmed this reminder in his heart. Scene reproduction square root. As the scene began to reappear, a black figure suddenly appeared in Qin Jibua's field of vision. This shadow man has a symmetrical figure, neither tall nor short, neither fat nor thin, and it's hard to tell what style of clothing he's wearing. Because he may not be wearing clothes at all, if you look carefully, you can vaguely distinguish that the muscles in its upper body and legs are relatively well developed, belonging to a relatively muscular physique. The dark face, combined with the sparkling eyes and white teeth of the Kazlan in the darkness, elevates the mystery of her identity to a higher level. Due to its most prominent feature of being completely pitch black, Qin Jibua can only temporarily refer to it as a person of darkness. Or to put it simply, it's called Little Black. Xiao He stepped on the window frame with one foot and suddenly turned his head to look back. Kazlan's large eyes, which were very abrupt in the darkness, instantly confronted Qin Jibua's gaze. There was no unnecessary expression in the straightforward gaze, but a chilling murderous aura filled the air. At the same time, in Qin Jibua's will column, the number 90 quickly jumped to 88. 87, 86, 85, 86, 87, 88, 90. After staring at each other for 5 seconds, Xiao He turned his face and walked over the window frame, stepping on the protruding part below the window edge and slowly moving his body from outside the window. Qin Jibua finally realized that the Little Black was not looking at him just now. It was probably because the perpetrator in the scene reproduction heard the movement in the hallway outside the door and instinctively had a stalemate reaction. This is related to the limbic system of the human brain, where when faced with a threat, the first response is always a stalemate reaction, suppressing and restraining inner fears psychologically, and adopting a state of stillness physically. Secondly, the brain will make a judgment on whether to escape or fight. Xiao He's body skillfully moved away from the window's view, and Qin Jibua quickly rushed forward and leaned over the window to examine Xiao He. On the protruding edge of the eaves outside the window, Little Black was tightly gripping the wall with both hands and slowly moving towards the room where the murder had occurred. When the distance from the balcony of the murder room was close enough, Xiao He's agile figure suddenly jumped and steadily jumped onto the opposite balcony. Then, Xiao He crawled into the brightly lit crime scene through the open balcony door and disappeared from Qin Jibua's view. This it turns out that the killer entered the crime scene from the neighboring room. Qin Jibua quickly rushed out of the room and returned to the scene of the murder. Just as he stood at the entrance of the murder scene, Qin Jibua saw a stunning scene. I saw a forensic police officer squatting next to the body in the room at the crime scene, taking photos and collecting evidence. Officer Mu is standing next to the body with a police officer named Takagi, seemingly discussing the search for witnesses. Kudo Shinichi, on the other hand, bent down to examine the balcony door, as if searching for something on it. In the center of all this seemingly harmonious murder scene, Little Black stood in front of the police officers, shaking his hands and suddenly thrusting into the void ahead. Immediately, Xiao He took a step back, looked at the corpses on the ground in terror, turned around, and fled towards the balcony. When Xiao He ran out, he happened to pass through Kudo Shinichi standing next to the balcony door and disappeared at the corner of the balcony. Seeing Xiao He disappear again, Chinjibwa quickly ran to the neighboring cabin to check on his next move. Standing next to the balcony door, Shinichi Kudo suddenly shuddered. Although there was no wind blowing, my body felt a chill, as if something terrifying was approaching me from behind. Kudo Shinichi turned back and saw Chinjibwa running to the left, standing in the corridor, with a somewhat urgent expression on his face. Now, Shinichi Kudo could no longer restrain his naturally strong curiosity and walked out of the room. Returning to the neighboring cabin, Chinjibwa poked his head out of the window and saw Little Black, hanging in mid-air struggling to climb towards him. Xiao Hei held on to something that might be a rope with both hands and feet, but like the weapon that Xiao Hei couldn't see in his hands just now, Chinjibwa couldn't see the rope, only seeing Xiao Hei slowly moving his body in mid-air. After more than half a minute, Xiao Hei finally crawled over. Chinjibwa, like his accomplice, immediately moved away from the window position, and Xiao Hei also flipped in. Next, Little Black played with the empty rope at the window and performed a series of imaginative lifeless performances. Finally, Xiao Hei lay by the bed in the room and stuffed something that might be in the shape of a package under the bed. Scene reproduction ends. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. So this is fighting skills, football. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. So this is fighting skills, football. As the scene reappeared, Little Black's body suddenly disappeared and the room returned to calm. Chinjibwa looked under the pitch-black bed and fell into a brief moment of contemplation. It is obvious that the perpetrator entered the crime scene next door through this room and hid the crime tools under the bed in this room after committing the crime. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest, and no one could have imagined that the tools of the crime would be hidden in this room so close to the crime scene, seemingly unrelated to the murder. Unfortunately, the identity of the killer cannot be seen in the scene reenactment. If you want to further confirm the identity of the killer, you can only look at what clues the killer has hidden under the bed. Thinking to himself, Chinjibwa bent down and prepared to reach under the bed to explore. But just as Chinjibwa was about to put his hand in, he remembered that in criminal investigation movies, when the police touch something that may be evidence, they would wear gloves or at least use a handkerchief to pat it to avoid leaving their fingerprints. To avoid trouble in explaining in the future, take a handkerchief yourself. Chinjibwa stood up and groped in his arms, but his pocket was relatively clean, except for his wallet and phone. Just then, a handkerchief was handed over from the side. Here you are. Thank you. Chinjibwa instinctively took the handkerchief, but immediately realized something was wrong. Turning his head, he saw Kudo Shinichi squatting next to him, the light blue handkerchief he had handed over. However, Shinichi Kudo did not pay attention to Chinjibwa, just stared calmly under the bed. Okay. Chinjibwa didn't know when Kudo Shinichi followed in, but he still placed a handkerchief on his palm and began to grope under the bed. After a little exploration, Chinjibwa felt a bulging object between the skeletons under the bed. Taking this thing out from under the bed, it was clearly a small package wrapped in a black rainproof cloth. The package was not tied with a rope and easily opened on the ground. Inside was a bundle of coiled ropes, with a short wooden stick tied to one end of the rope and a black raincoat next to it. On top of the black raincoat, there are some mottled bloodstains due to rubbing them together. Seeing these two things, Shinichi Kudo's heart was uplifted. That old fox really didn't have time to deal with the blood clothes he wore when killing, and now there is a mountain of hard evidence. Even if he has strong psychological resilience, he can't argue. Just a rope tied with a short wooden stick next to it. Kudo Shinichi pondered for a few seconds, then smiled slightly at the corner of his mouth. As key evidence was discovered in the room next to the murder scene, Shinichi Kudo's brain quickly sorted out the entire process of Tsuyuzunda's crime. Just this time, Shinichi Kudo knew that he was not the first person to understand the truth of the matter. But rather Chinjibwa, who was the first to find evidence next to him. If it weren't for his curiosity about Qin Jibwa's strange behavior at the crime scene, it would have taken about 10 minutes to sort out the entire case and find the final conclusive evidence. I lost this time. Kudo Shinichi is not a stingy person. Compared to the naturally competitive nature among detectives, revealing the truth and punishing the culprit are the most important. At this thought, Shinichi Kudo suddenly smiled and stood up, saying, with this important evidence, Xue Zunda cannot argue anymore. Next, are you going to tell the police or should I go? Kudo Shinichi thought very clearly in his heart. After all, this time he was not the fastest to deduce the truth, so it's better not to show off this time. In the city of Mihua, the motive for murder is often triggered by the moment when people seek fame and fortune. At this moment, Qin Jibwa, who was squatting on the ground, was still pondering who the culprit was. I originally thought that if evidence was found, the system would provide an investigation option and then determine the identity of the perpetrator from the investigation. But there is no mention of investigation in this package of evidence. So an awkward scene appeared, and although Qin Jibwa found evidence, he could not immediately determine who the culprit was. At this moment, hearing Kudo Shinichi's words next to him, Qin Jibwa was also somewhat surprised in his heart. Is the culprit Xue Zunda? Cough, just go tell the police. Kudo Shinichi looked at Qin Jibwa with a surprised expression, as if he was looking at a strange guy. This case is a celebrity murder case, and journalists from various media outlets have already arrived. If this case can be solved, it will definitely benefit the reputation of the detective. So Kudo Shinichi asked again. Are you sure? Qin Jibwa definitely nodded and then looked at the remaining time of the side task in his field of vision. 00.20.010.20.0000.19.59 On the first floor banquet hall, at the request of Shinichi Kudo, Officer Momo gathered all the personnel of today's mansion together. As soon as the personnel gathered, Xue Zunda began to complain. You guys have more to do. I don't have time to accompany you on this fruitless search. This elderly man wearing a purple suit in a wheelchair is not at all panicked when facing the police, and uses his high social status to put pressure on Officer Mu. As soon as Officer Mu was about to answer, Shinichi Kudo walked in directly from the door and said, Takashi Yamazaki, the general manager of Mitsubishi Bank, was killed in the reception room on the third floor of this mansion, and it happened to be a banquet at that time. He was stabbed to death by a sharp blade, and the door of the murder room was tightly locked. One of the room keys was in Tetsuya Yamazaki's pocket, while the other spare key was in the butler's hand. Is that right, Mr. Matsumoto? Standing beside Xue Zunda, a middle-aged man with a butler-like appearance nodded to confirm Kudo Shinichi's statement. That is to say, the only open window at the time of the incident was the balcony window facing the atrium in the reception room. The perpetrator could only sneak into the room through the balcony window and then kill Tetsuya Yamazaki. In fact, the entire process of the killer's crime was like this. Firstly, the perpetrator should have had a secret meeting with Mr. Yamazaki in the third-floor reception room. Therefore, during the banquet, Mr. Yamazaki borrowed the room key from the butler and waited for the perpetrator alone in the reception room. Afterwards, the killer found an excuse to escape from the banquet venue and went to the room diagonally opposite the reception room on the third floor. He walked along the protruding edge of the eaves under the room window until he reached the corner of the wall, and then jumped onto the balcony of the reception room. That is to say, the killer is someone who is very familiar with the special structure of this mansion, and also someone who can move around the mansion without suspicion during banquets. As Kudo Shinichi spoke, he walked towards the old-fashioned fireplace in the middle of the banquet hall, where a large globe was placed. Only those who simultaneously meet these conditions can. Kudo Shinichi suddenly looked back handsome, his fingertips pointing towards the people surrounded by Mrs. Xue, the butler, and the maid. The owner of the mansion, Xue Zunda. The culprit is you. As Kudo Shinichi pointed his finger towards Xue Zunda, the people surrounding Xue Zunda immediately retreated halfway, creating a unique C. position for Xue Zunda that belonged solely to the murderer. Xue Zunda was stunned for a second, and his expression gradually became grim. He patted the wheelchair with his hand and shouted loudly, "What are you talking nonsense about? My legs are already like this, how can I kill him? Don't pretend anymore." Kudo Shinichi suddenly turned around and picked up the globe from the fireplace, throwing it fiercely at Xue Zunda's leg, which had been cast in plaster. Under the stimulation of the globe, Xue Zunda surprisingly stood up from the wheelchair in front of everyone. Kudo Shinichi picked up the globe that rolled back to his feet and confidently said, "The Mu Police Department has just confirmed with your attending doctor that your leg injury has long been healed. Even if you continue to argue, we have already found the blood clothes you have hidden. As long as you hand them over to the forensic class, they will definitely find your DNA." With overwhelming evidence, Xue Zunda jumped over the wall and turned around to push away the butler behind him, rushing towards the door where the police were not paying attention. But at that moment, Shinichi Kudo suddenly threw up the globe he was holding in his hand, and at the same time, he made a standard soccer shot. I saw the globe accurately drawing a micro arc in the air, bypassing the butler's body and hitting the back of Xue Zunda's head. Xue Zunda immediately fell to the ground. Score a goal. Qin Jibwa. Seeing this scene, Qin Jibwa finally understood what fighting skills, football, are. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Truth Missing by Detectives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The truth missing by Detective Xue Zunda, who was lying on the ground, was uncertain of his life or death. The police next to him immediately stepped forward to investigate the situation. Fortunately, Mr. Xuyu's breath still lingered, and Kudo Shinichi did not become a murderer. However, just now when Kudo Shinichi kicked Xue Zunda in the head, he proudly said, "Goal scored," which made Qin Jibwa vaguely feel that Kudo Shinichi's original intention in playing football was not to shoot. If that's the case, the skill. Firearms, football, doesn't seem too much as Xuyu respected virtue and practiced the Dharma. Qin Jibwa's ears also heard a rumbling sound of prompts. Congratulations on completing the branch mission, task settlement rating. C++, gain 200 general skill proficiency, obtaining 100 social credits, rating reward. 70 general skill proficiency. The rewards for side quests are not very generous, and it is only now that Qin Jibwa knows about the concept of task settlement rating rewards. Although the specific criteria for task rating are unknown, it is speculated that it should be related to the completion time of the task, whether there is assistance from others, and the difficulty of the case. For example, the high school detective who named the killer this time will definitely have his score reduced. Although Qin Jibwa has found the most important evidence, sending the evidence for identification will definitely result in the task exceeding the deadline. There is also a completion time for the task, and the system calculated 1 hour of task time and there are still over 3 minutes left. Qin Jibwa almost stepped on the task to complete it. What puzzled Qin Jibwa a bit was that in his sense of time, less than half an hour had passed from the discovery of the body to the perpetrator's ambush. Why is the task time calculation of the system almost an hour past? Other guests and police also believe that an hour has passed. Did I make a mistake with the time? Just as Qin Jibwa was puzzled by his chaotic sense of time, Shinichi Kudo and Officer Momo were talking to each other. "Brother Kudo, it's fortunate that you were able to solve the case so quickly this time." Kudo Shinichi smiled slightly and shook his head, saying, "Actually, the evidence I handed you was first found by Mr. Qin, and the credit for solving this case should also be Mr. Qin's." "Oh. So it's like this." Kudo Shinichi's words stunned Mu and he looked at Qin Jibwa with some confusion. In Mu's perception, although Qin Jibwa is also qualified to be his younger brother, he is not yet able to compete with his strongest brother, Shinichi Kudo, for his reasoning ability. But to my surprise, Qin was the first to discover the truth this time. At this moment, Mayalalan walked over from behind with a slightly complaining little gaze and reminded, "Shinichi, it's getting late. After being reminded by Xiaolan, Cindy finally remembered that she and Xiaolan have an important date tomorrow and should go back to rest early now. If it affects tomorrow's date status, my childhood sweetheart's fist is not a vegetarian. Officer Mu, if you want to take a statement, let's wait until next time. I'll leave first. Oh, do you need me to have my subordinates take you two back? Thank you, no need. Goodbye, Officer Mu Mu. Before leaving, Muri-lan bowed to Officer Momo and followed Shinichi Kudo towards the back door of the mansion, which was not guarded by reporters. As for the next time mentioned by Kudo Shinichi, it means that when the next case occurs, he will record his testimony together with the previous case, which saves him from running back and forth to the police station. Anyway, based on Mu Mu's understanding of Kudo, this next time should not be too far away. Watching Kudo Shinichi and Muri-lan leave, Qin Jibwa no longer has this special treatment and needs to stay here to record his testimony before leaving. I'll ask Brother Qin to explain the detailed process of the crime to me later. To be honest, Brother Kudo's reasoning earlier was a bit hasty, and I haven't quite figured out some details yet. At this moment, the police helped Shuyu Zunda with a bandage wrapped around his head as he walked out, while Shuyu Zunda defended himself to the police beside him. Although I killed the person, I definitely didn't make that hole in my face. I can swear. Upon hearing these words, Officer Mu, with a strong sense of justice, walked forward in indignation and scolded, for whatever reason, you have already taken away a person's life. And since you are the murderer, how could that cruel technique not have been done by you? Right. Brother Qin. Mu Mu turned around and saw that Qin Jibwa, who had just stood beside him, suddenly disappeared. At this moment, Qin Jibwa was alone contemplating everything he had just seen in the scene reenactment. After being reminded by Shuyu Zunda just now, Qin Jibwa suddenly thought of a detail he had missed. Who cut off the cheek flesh on the face of the deceased Tetsuya Yamazaki? Since the culprit was Shuyu Zunda, who had already pleaded guilty to the law, everyone naturally believed that Shuyu Zunda had committed such cruel behavior. But Qin Jibwa, who had seen all the actions of Xiao Hei at the crime scene, knew that Shuyu Zunda had turned his head and ran away after stabbing Zhongshan Chija's heart with a knife, without any other unnecessary movements. If there is no omission in the scene reenactment, it means that the murderer and the person who cut off the victim's cheek are two people. Before he knew it, Qin Jibwa wandered to the kitchen door, where two beautiful young maids who were almost identical were standing in the corridor outside the kitchen talking. From the information displayed above their heads, it can be seen that one of the two maids is named Naomi Shimasa, and the other is named Naomi Shimasa. Twin maids. Did someone die in that reception room? Did those books in the reception room become unlucky as a result? Yeah, but unfortunately, Butler Matsumoto still really likes those books. Upon hearing the maid's words, Qin Jibwa suddenly remembered the strange French book he was investigating at the crime scene. He stood up and interrupted the conversation between the two maids, asking, what exactly is the origin of those books in the reception room? The two maids were somewhat alarmed by Qin Jibwa's sudden appearance, but they all replied in unison, because the master doesn't like reading and wants to pretend to be very knowledgeable in front of outsiders, that's why Matsumoto Butler made the purchase. After speaking, the twin maids fled as if. As the twin maids left, Qin Jibwa's gaze fell on the kitchen at the end of the corridor. In the kitchen sink, slightly turbid water soaked napkins, plates, and knives and forks. What surprised Qin Jibwa even more was that there was a spot of light on the plate, which was an investigation point he had missed. Investigation square root, someone seems to have just held a dinner here, and only extremely rare ingredients on the market can match such a sense of ceremony at this moment, a voice from behind interrupted Qin Jibwa's thinking. This gentleman. Are you lost? Looking back, the butler Matsumoto of the mansion was standing at the door, his eyes emitting a chilling light. End of this chapter. Have you ever heard of prion in Chapter 7? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Have you ever heard of prion in Chapter 7? Matsumoto Butler had the most standard smile on his face, but with a hint of cold light emanating from his slightly narrowed eyes, the entire smile completely changed its meaning. This smile seems to be that a famous psychopath is staring at his prey, and the next second, this elegantly mannered beast may suddenly erupt, opening its blood plate and mouth towards the prey. Chinjibwa, who looked at the expression of Matsumoto Butler, was very calm on his face, but the number in the willpower column showed a continuous downward trend. 908,980.7. The willpower dropped a few times and then rebounded. At this moment, the cold light in Matsumoto's Butler's eyes suddenly disappeared, and he did not make the sudden outburst he had imagined. Instead, he respectfully said, "Sir, the room where the police took the statement is over here." Faced with the guidance of Butler Matsumoto, Chinjibwa ignored it and calmly opened the cabinet with a handkerchief that Shinichi Kudo had forgotten to ask for. In the cabinet, a bag of newly torn bleach is exceptionally eye-catching. Bleach has strong oxidizing properties and can destroy the molecular structure of DNA in the blood. In addition, it has been over an hour since the incident, and all evidence that can be used for accusations can be destroyed during this period. Chinjibwa calmly covered the cabinet and said, "Actually, the reasoning of that high school detective was not wrong, but there were omissions. During the period between Shuyu Zunda's murder and the maid's discovery of the body, there was actually another person who had entered the scene of the murder. This person has a spare key and can use the excuse of having the maid clean the room to control the time when the body is found at will." Chinjibwa's gaze turned to Ryohira Matsumoto, who continued to put on his harmless smile and said, "The person you're talking about seems to be me. Since the gentleman has doubts, the police have not left yet." Before Matsumoto Ryohira could finish speaking, Chinjibwa smiled and shook his head. "It's useless. This period of time is enough for you to deal with all the evidence that's against you. And it's true that you didn't kill people, you were just trying to satisfy your perverted tendencies. Right. A member of the corpse cult." It was Matsumoto Ryohira's turn this time and he was shocked. Seeing Ryohira Matsumoto's slightly stunned expression, Chinjibwa knew he had hit the nail on Matsumoto's head. "If you don't want the police to investigate you in depth, just reveal some information about the corpse cult to me. Believe me, it's not bad for you." Chinjibwa's words are very convincing. Although Ryohira Matsumoto has already dealt with the evidence that is unfavorable to him, a comprehensive search would inevitably cause unnecessary trouble. Moreover, the content that Chinjibwa wants to know is not a great secret, so it's okay to speak it out. Japan's zombie cult is not an organized and disciplined cult, but more like a fan club formed by people with similar interests gathering together. As for what kind of addiction, sir should know. However, even this fan club is divided into two factions. One faction is the Bo faction, which is people who do not want to excessively disrupt their lives. The other faction is the fanatics, who have a strong desire for raw meat. After listening, Chinjibwa nodded and extracted some information that needed special attention from Ryohira Matsumoto's words. Firstly, organizations similar to the corpse cult are not only found in Japan, and their origins may be related to the French book recommended for investigation by the system. Additionally, Ryohira Matsumoto should be a member of the Hiroshima faction. "So, are you from the Bo faction?" Ryohira Matsumoto nodded slightly, acknowledging it. However, Chinjibwa did not relax his vigilance as a result, because Bo-gue's Bo should be interpreted as Guangwa, which means to eat everything. If necessary, it is not impossible to eat raw food. How can we find your kind? Chinjibwa was not polite when speaking, directly referring to his own kind. Matsumoto Ryohira, on the other hand, did not have any aversion and introduced, "As I said, the Boko people do not want to be disturbed, so they never contact each other. But in suicide shrines like Aokihara Tree Sea and Tushin Forest, there may be unexpected gains." Although he is not familiar with Japanese place names, Chinjibwa still has some impressions when it comes to the Aokihara Tree Sea. Aokihara Tree Sea is a very sinister forest at the foot of Mount Fuji, Japan's most famous suicide site, and even specialized documentaries have been released. Police and volunteers can find up to dozens of new corpses here every year. It seems that people from the Bo faction occasionally go to help nature digest just crouching in the vast sea of trees to guard a destined person. Chinjibwa felt that the efficiency of this task was still too low, and with his luck of 35, it seemed unreliable. So Chinjibwa continued to ask, is there any other way? Matsumoto Yoshihiro pondered for a moment and said, the members of the Madman faction have a secret website, maybe you can discover something. As Matsumoto Ryohira spoke, he took out a small notebook from his pocket, wrote a website address on it, and then tore it off. Accept the note handed over by Ryohira Matsumoto, and Chinjibwa is ready to do his final job. So, thank you for your cooperation. As Chinjibwa's words fell, he extended his right hand. Looking at the hand extending towards him, Ryohira Matsumoto's gaze was somewhat surprised. This person knows about their special hobby and can confidently converse with themselves, even wanting to hold their hands that have just broken down to meat pieces. An incredible man. The surprise on Matsumoto Ryohira's face was immediately smoothed by a smile, and then he reached out his hand to grip Chinjibwa's hand. Investigation square root. As Chinjibwa began his investigative skills, information about Ryohira Matsumoto was presented one by one. Name: Ryohira Matsumoto. Gender: male. Age: 46. Occupation: butler. Social credit: 1,700. Power: 50. Agility: 50. Physical fitness: 40. Body type: 65. Appearance: 60. Intelligence: 60. Will: 60. Lucky: 50. Evaluation: elegant, timeless, even when eating corpses. Skills: language, information search, history, car driving, art and crafts, art, calligraphy, cooking, haircut, music, gardening, photography. In this handshake power confrontation, Chinjibwa once again succeeded and investigated a large amount of information about Ryohira Matsumoto. Apart from his personal attributes becoming more normal, Ryohira Matsumoto, who has a necrophilia, unexpectedly mastered many artistic skills. At the same time, the wording has also been updated in the main task column. Progress: 1/2. It seems that Chinjibwa's understanding is correct. Investigation means using investigation skills to investigate people. Having completed the side quests and 1/2 of the main quests, as well as obtaining clues to complete the other half of the main quests, Chinjibwa was in a good mood and released his grip as he headed out of the kitchen. But as soon as he walked to the door, Chinjibwa suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Ryohira Matsumoto. By the way, have you ever heard of prion? Looking at Chinjibwa's suddenly serious face, Ryohira Matsumoto shook his head in confusion. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Jibwa Detective Office. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Jibwa Detective Office. It is normal for Japanese people in 1996 not to know about prion, as prion research only became world-renowned in 1997 for winning the Nobel Prize. Seeing Ryohira Matsumoto shaking his head, Chinjibwa began to popularize science for him. Prion are infectious denatured proteins that can cause central nervous system degeneration in humans and livestock. Once infected with this disease, the patient's brain will become riddled with holes due to the degeneration of the nervous system, and ultimately can only die like a zombie without treatment. The main cause of prion is cannibalism. After completing the science popularization, Chinjibwa waved his hand and left the kitchen, leaving Matsumoto Ryujin stunned. Under the warm invitation of Officer Mumu, Chinjibwa recounted the entire crime of Shuyuzunda. This time, Chinjibwa revealed all the details that Kudo Shinichi had missed out on due to his attempt to save time, including the fact that the rope tied to a short stick in the evidence was actually used to return from the murder case room to the adjacent room. After listening to Chinjibwa's narration, even Moo Moo couldn't help but marvel. Chin's reasoning is so accurate, as if he had seen it with his own eyes. Chin Jibwa. After the formal recording of the confession, the time happened to be PM 8.01. Leaving the Xue mansion, Chin Jibwa dodged the journalist who was still squatting at the main entrance and refused to leave. He stopped a taxi on the roadside, took out his driver's license from his wallet, and read the personal address recorded on it to the driver. During the ride, Chin Jibwa carefully studied the system. Due to completing the branch task, Chin Jibwa now has a general skill proficiency of 270 and a social credit of 100. The social credit has been added to Chin Jibwa's personal information, and now Chin Jibwa's social credit is 1300. Chin Jibwa has already witnessed the benefits of high social credit. For example, the high school student detective Shinichi Kudo, relying on his high social credibility, stunned the social celebrities at the scene, sealed off the murder scene, and like dispatching a younger brother, asked the police to search for clues for him. In the end, he could leave without taking a statement when his hands and feet were sound. It's simply outrageous. And general skill proficiency, obviously, is the general proficiency that can increase the overall skill proficiency. At present, Chin Jibwa has mastered 6 skills, namely investigation, medical treatment, car driving, language, fighting skills, and firearms. 5 of them, the high school detective, also has the same or similar skills, except for investigative skills. In theory, detectives should also investigate. So Chin Jibwa speculates that the investigation should be a professional skill exclusive to the investigator's profession, which is also known as the core professional skill. Since it is a core skill, it must be prioritized for improvement. Moreover, the proficiency level of the investigation skill is only 200 points away, and for each level improvement, it will also increase 5 points of intelligence attribute. Who would find their brain too smart? So Chin Jibwa's mind moved and 200 proficiency levels of general skills were incorporated into the investigation skills. Name: Chin Jibwa Intelligence. 70 Investigation. Investigation refers to your investigative talent, improving level. 2 Proficiency. 0/2000, Investigation Level 2, unlock new investigation, corpse investigation, corpse investigation. By investigating corpses, random skills or skill proficiency can be obtained. Seeing these prompts, Chin Jibwa became excited in his heart. I thought it was just a simple improvement in proficiency, but I didn't expect to unlock a new survey. When he was at the crime scene just now, Chin Jibwa clearly remembered that there was no option to investigate the body of Tetsuya Yamazaki. Moreover, by investigating the corpse, one can directly obtain random skills and skill proficiency, which is clearly much simpler than completing tasks and is a model of getting something for nothing. Chin Jibwa's heart just became excited for 2 seconds before calming down. This is a civilized metropolis. How could there be so many corpses to investigate unless you are a mortuary, squatting in the morgues of major hospitals? It seems that improving skills and completing tasks, especially main tasks, is the right path. This main task not only has 5 times the proficiency of general skills compared to side tasks, but also includes opening the mall, drawing lots, and skill training acceleration cards. With such generous rewards, it seems imperative to complete the main task. The taxi took Chin Jibwa to his destination, and Chin Jibwa paid for the fare with money in his wallet. Looking up, Chin Jibwa saw a detective agency located on the 2nd floor, with the prefix Jibwa in its name. Without a doubt, this office must be owned by the original owner of this body. Now Chin Jibwa also knows why Officer Moo Moo knows him. It turns out that himself and the high school detective are on the same page. Walking up the stairs from the side of the 1st floor storefront to the 2nd floor, Chin Jibwa searched back and forth for his pocket, but couldn't find the key. Does the original owner have a habit of going out without a key? This habit is not good. Following the usual routine, Chin Jibwa casually searched near the door and easily found the key under the carpet. Insert the key into the lock hole, and with a click, the door opens. Pushing the door in, turning on the room lights, Qin Jibua looked around the internal layout of the office. This is a relatively rudimentary office, without a long sofa or coffee table for guests, only a desk and boss's chair placed by the window, and a TV set placed on the cabinet opposite the desk. To Qin Jibua's surprise, a personal computer that was considered very fashionable in 1996 was still placed on such a rudimentary office desk. Beside the computer were half a bottle of whiskey in a few empty glasses, nothing else. In addition to the office's business area, which is clearly visible upon entering, the office also has two small rooms, namely a toilet and a rudimentary bedroom. Without a doubt, this office is both the place where one works and the place where one resides. For Qin Jibua, this has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that there will definitely be no wife, children, or other close relatives around the original owner, saving the trouble of dealing with the original owner's family. The downside is that the life of the original owner must be very difficult, otherwise they wouldn't be living alone in the office. With such thoughts in mind, Qin Jibua sat down on the boss's chair and summarized how much money he still had left. The money in the wallet is not small, and there are still over 27,000 yen left after paying the fare. A few days of living should be enough. In addition, there is also a driver's license and a metal plaque resembling a badge in the wallet. This badge is cleverly attached to the wallet like a police badge, and it is all in English. Qin Jibua took off his badge and read the English on it. Miskatonic University, flipping over to the back, the bronze-colored metallic surface on the back of the badge features a twisted pentagram symbol hand engraved on it. The emblem of an unknown foreign university may have been kept in the wallet by the original owner as a talisman. Qin Jibua put the badge back in his wallet and checked the drawer on his desk. In the first drawer, there are mainly bills for various living expenses, and on top of the messy bills is a passbook. This is a passbook from Bailing Bank. The amount recorded on it is not too much, but the amount received for each transaction is not less than 100,000. And the last time I received it was yesterday, it was actually a whopping 200,000.00. But it was only when Qin Jibua thought that the original owner of this body was an invisible wealthy man that he realized the book balance of the entire passbook was 57,440.00. That is to say, if it weren't for the sudden large payment yesterday, I would have run out of food today. It seems that we won't be able to achieve the desired outcome to calm down the ups and downs. Qin Jibua opened the second drawer. There are very few things in the second drawer, only 2 photos and an envelope are worth noting. The first photo is a group photo of 3 people on the beach. The 3 men in the photo are wearing beach pants, shoulder to shoulder, with smiles on their faces, looking like close friends. Turning to the back of the photo, there is a faint pencil line. Yukiyoshi Haneda, Takashi Akai, and Vince Chin, photographed on July 12, 1978. Hawaii, United States. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Research on Qin Jibua's identity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Research on Qin Jibua's identity. There is a lot of information that can be analyzed in this photo. First of all, the shooting time of the photo. In 1977, which is 19 years ago. According to Qin Jibua's current age of 37 years, subtracting 19 years, it happens to be 18 years old. Among the 3 people in the photo who participated in the group photo, only one was clearly the youngest, with a facial appearance of around 18 years old. Qin Jibua immediately ran to the bathroom with a photo and looked at his face in the mirror. Just now in the Xue mansion, Qin Jibua had not had the opportunity to carefully examine his own face. Overall, the face of oneself, which has not been carefully taken care of, belongs to the upper middle class among the crowd, while the Eastern face also vaguely reveals some Western characteristics, similar to the feeling of a mixed-race person. Looking at himself in the mirror and comparing with the young person in the photo, Qin Jibua immediately confirmed that the youngest person in the photo is himself. The 2 people who took a photo with themselves both appear to be in their early 30s. One of them is wearing a brown duckbill hat, with sparse beard residue on his face, and his facial lines are clearly defined, exuding a unique temperament of a fashionable male model. The other person is quite average, with a slightly wealthy appearance, and the most obvious feature is wearing a pair of square glasses. Undoubtedly, these two individuals should be Yukiyoshi Haneda and Takashi Akai, but Chinjibwa doesn't know who Yukiyoshi Haneda and Takashi Akai are. After analyzing the approximate identities of the three in the group photo, Chinjibwa began to search for clues in the background of the photo. On the left background of the three-person group photo, Chinjibwa saw a pitch-black American barbecue grill. This type of barbecue often appears in many scenes involving American family gatherings, so Chinjibwa speculates that the scene in the group photo should also be a family gathering. And there are no idle people walking around and the sea house in the entire photo. Hawaii is a tourist destination, and with the beautiful weather in the photos, it is logically impossible for there to be no tourists around. This indicates that this beach is likely a private place or a specialized rental. On the right background of the three, a woman lying on a beach chair can be seen from a distance. The woman has light golden hair, wears a black bikini, and her snow-white skin and explosive body curves are clearly visible. However, due to the obstruction of sunglasses and insufficient photo clarity, Chinjibwa cannot see the woman's appearance clearly. And behind the beach chair where the woman was sitting, there were two slightly protruding little brains. These two little-brained cuckoos are hiding on both sides of the beach chair, revealing half of their heads and cautiously observing the direction of the three-person group photo. From the positions where the two children protrude their heads, it can be seen that one of them has a significantly taller head and should be older. Chinjibwa scanned the other corners of the photo again, confirming that there were no missing clues, and began silently summarizing the information on the photo in his heart. Chinjibwa is likely a pseudonym, and Vince Chin is the real name. The photo was taken 19 years ago at a family gathering on a private beach in Hawaii. The participants of the party include at least me, Yasuhiro Haneda, Takashi Akai, a woman with light golden hair, two children with age differences, and the photographer of the photo. After possessing 70% intelligence, Chinjibwa felt that his brain was organizing clues incredibly clearly. Even without relying on the system's investigative ability, he could analyze a lot of information from a simple group photo in a clear and organized manner. After seeing the first photo, Chinjibwa picked up the second photo again. The second photo is still a photo of oneself with others, in which oneself has become more mature, holding a certificate framed in a formal setting with both hands. But what surprised Chinjibwa the most was the clothes he was wearing. On the chest of the blue jacket, the three letters FBI are prominently written in yellow font. The person standing on the right side of oneself, regardless of their position, posture, or age, is like a superior who awards certificates to themselves. This person has a kind face, with a British-style sheriff standard beard and a pair of black framed glasses. Flipping to the back of the photo, there is still a line of pencil instructions. Shooting competition souvenir. Chinjibwa calculated in his heart that he was 25 years old in 1984. That is to say, at the age of 25, he is a professional FBI investigator. Now, Chinjibwa finally understood why he had the professional skill of firearms. There was still the last envelope left, and Chinjibwa quickly took out the letter and read the content on it. This letter is written in Japanese, only a few short sentences. Thank you very much for your help, but the next step is not the area you should be in. But if you insist on seeking the truth, then come to Japan. After arriving in Japan, please contact our local Inhai by phone. The numbers behind the phone on the letterhead were all artificially blacked out, and Chinjibwa couldn't distinguish what a string of numbers it was. There is no information about the sender or recipient on the envelope, it is completely blank. But on the back of the envelope, Chinjibwa still found a useful clue. That is the production date on the bottom right corner of the back of the envelope, which is 1992, which is 4 years ago. Then, Chinjibwa pulled out the last drawer. The things in this drawer are quite simple, only a dozen postcards. Chin Jibwa took a rough look at the postcards, which were all themed around scenic photos of the Hawaiian Islands, and there was no writing on them. Chin Jibwa put all the group photos, letters, and postcards back in their original positions and reconsidered the situation he currently had. I am a Japanese American, originally named Vince Chin. 2. There are 2 Japanese friends with clear names, Yasuhiro Haneda and Takeshi Yakai. 3. There is a high probability of living in Hawaii before reaching adulthood, otherwise one would not hold a large number of Hawaiian postcards. 4. Studied at Miskatonic University during college. 5. Previously worked at the FBI, with a good shooting skills and a boss worth taking photos with. 6. In order to investigate a certain truth, under someone's guidance, he came to Japan at most 4 years ago and established a detective agency under the pseudonym Chin Jibwa. 7. There is a person who needs to be contacted, this Tang Ying Hai, but it is highly likely that they have not been able to contact them, otherwise they would not have kept this letter until now. After sorting out these 7 identities in his mind, Chin Jibwa had to admit that he seemed to be possessed by a troublesome guy. The American FBI lurking in Japanese society, shouldn't it be a spy, right? Chin Jibwa carefully recalled what happened today, and first of all, his appearance in Xuyu's house was somewhat unreasonable. The people attending the banquet at Xue Mansion tonight are either wealthy, or social celebrities like that high school detective. Why do people with only 1,200 social credit appear among them? In addition, there are large deposits of unknown origin in the passbook. The more Chin Jibwa thought about it, the more he felt uneasy in his heart, as if he had realized his identity as an spy. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Newcomers in the Labor Union. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Newcomers in the Labor Union. Chin Jibwa, lying on the bed in the bedroom, slowly opened his eyes. Yesterday, due to suspicion that he was a spy sent by relevant U.S. departments to Japan, Chin Jibwa conducted a major search in the office. As a result, dangerous goods and the like were not found, but when Chin Jibwa found the bed in the bedroom, he suddenly felt drowsy and fell asleep directly on the bed. When I woke up, it was already noon the next day. After washing up in the narrow toilet, Chin Jibwa stretched out his slightly sore body and sat in the boss's chair. Although no prohibited dangerous goods were found in the office, Chin Jibwa still couldn't relax his vigilance. In order to avoid being exposed by acquaintances of the original owner or inexplicably getting involved in the things the original owner wants to do in Japan, Chin Jibwa believes that he should try to avoid meeting people he once knew. Especially the person named Ben Tang Ying Hai. According to the information obtained yesterday, the original owner came to Japan to first connect with a person named Hondo Ying Hai, but for some reason, the connection failed. The only thing that worries Chin Jibwa now is that Ying Hai from this hall will take the initiative to find him. After all, Japan is not considered vast and has abundant resources. The entire country's area is just one province of China, and the chance of meeting may be higher than imagined. So Chin Jibwa thinks he should be careful and pay attention to the men around him who actively approach him. This should be the name of a male, Ying Hai. Chin Jibwa guessed so. Lying on the boss's chair, Chin Jibwa felt a bit bored. There wasn't much business coming to the office, so Chin Jibwa turned on the TV. The content being broadcasted on the TV is a current affairs news dialogue program. The host of the program is a male and female duo, and the male anchor has an average appearance, which actually highlights the young and beautiful female anchor next to her, with extraordinary temperament. The skillful ponytail, 2 strands of folded hair raised from the front, combined with exquisite makeup, even made Chin Jibwa feel the urge to personally investigate her and see how many points this appearance system can give her. On the subtitles appearing below the TV screen, the name of the female anchor is displayed as Xue Williana. He can even be said to be the savior of Japanese police. The male anchor's words at this moment made Chin Jibwa realize that the news on TV was about the case that happened at Xue Mansion yesterday. And the male anchor among them is vigorously promoting the investigator of yesterday's case, Shinichi Kudo. Although Kudo Shinichi did not give an interview yesterday, according to on-site personnel, the police still caught the murderer through Kudo Shinichi's reasoning. So at this time, a photo of Shinichi Kudo from his previous TV appearance was displayed on the TV program, combined with his daily promotion of Shinichi Kudo's press releases, which could stir up a new wave of topics. Seeing this news, Jibwa also remembered that he still had one important thing to do. With a snap of the remote control, Jibwa turned off the TV and opened the big but computer on his desk. The computer is an ancient W95 system, and the desktop requires some loading time, but at least it indicates that this computer is not a decoration. Taking advantage of the loading time on the desktop, Jibwa dug out the note written by Yohei Matsumoto to himself yesterday from his coat. On the note, it is the website address of the secret website of the members of the corpse cult fanatics. I entered the URL into the search box using the keyboard, and after a few seconds of response, a search result popped up accurately on the almost blank page. Gently move the mouse, click on the web page, and the screen, which is white to the point of blinking eyes, suddenly turns black. This is a web page with a pure black background, and at the most prominent top of the web page, there are two large characters made with blood-dripping special effects. Society. Slide the mouse scroll wheel to continue browsing down. This web page is shoddy, with no layout or aesthetics at all. It is cluttered with bloody vulgar animations and inferior textures, with large red and black blocks almost filling the entire web page. Most people can tell at a glance that this is a junk web page with little nutritional value, and then close the web page. But Jibwa came with a purpose, so he patiently scrolled the mouse wheel and finally discovered something valuable. At the bottom of the social media website, there is a public message board. This type of message board does not require real name registration. As long as you randomly choose a nickname, you can speak on the message board, and the end of the speech is also marked with the time of the speech. Currently, there is only one comment on the message board, which was left a week ago. Oh. Is anyone there? There is no response below this message, as if it confirms that this is a dead website. Although he felt a little annoyed in his heart, Jibwa had no choice but to use the oldest method. Wait, just wait hard. Next, Jibwa turned on his computer and TV at the same time, watching TV to relax and paying attention to whether there were any replies on the message board. In order to make the comments on the message more timely and convenient for phishing, Jibwa gave himself a nickname and left a new message on the message board. Ryohira Matsumoto. I am also a fan of that aspect. Is anyone there? The previous message appeared to be a pure passerby who didn't understand anything, so Jibwa speculated that the members of the crazy faction might have been cautious and didn't respond to the passerby. So Jibwa's comments use quotation marks to imply that he also has a special hobby in that area, and first express his loyalty. Using Matsumoto Ryohira's name as a nickname is also a chance to see if anyone here will know Matsumoto Ryohira and start a conversation with him. Jibwa's wishful thinking was very good, but there were no new messages on the message board from noon until nightfall. Throughout the afternoon, Jibwa felt like his eyes were going blind as he spent the whole afternoon staring at this crappy website. But just as Jibwa was about to turn off his computer and go out to find food, the purple font on the message board suddenly jumped. New message. Jibwa quickly sat back in his chair and stared at the new message above. Crazy mouth eating. Hey, newcomers. It seems that I don't know Ryohira Matsumoto, but it's not a big deal. Jibwa waited for more than half a minute, appearing less deliberate, before continuing to leave a message on the message board. Ryohira Matsumoto. Yes, I'm not very familiar with eating yet. Do you have any experience or tricks? Jibwa is not sure how these people usually communicate, so he just pretends to be newcomers. Staring at the message board on the screen, Jibwa anxiously waited for a reply, but it wasn't until 15 minutes later that the message board scrolled again. Crazy mouth eating. I don't have time to share my experience with you now, crazy mouth eating. Just now, I saw a little girl walking in and out alone at the entrance of the Cup House restaurant. I followed her a little and there were no adults around me. Crazy mouth eating. I haven't had any money to spend lately. Those who can stay in such a big restaurant are definitely children from wealthy families, and they can extort a considerable amount of money, crazy mouth eating. When I get the money, I can still give a tooth ceremony, it's really super luck. Crazy eating is like showing off to others, leaving behind several sentences before stopping speaking. In Qin Jibua's field of vision, text explanations for the new task appeared. Side task. Resolve the kidnapping of young girls. Task requirement. Time limit of 1 hour. If the young girl dies, the task will be considered a failure. Task reward. 300 proficiency in general skills, 100 social credit. End of this chapter.